Season 2 wrapped up in an amazing manner. We found out some more aspects of the characters, and more importantly, the characters found out about themselves. We also had equal parts tragedy and triumph. But humanity has a renewed hope for Season 3, but it's tinged with just a tiny bit of knowledge about who the enemy really is. So let's get to it. The way events played out across these last 2 episodes really inspired me to take a character-centered approach to this final discussion of Season 2. By that, I mean I want to take a couple of minutes to discuss each key character one at a time and just explore what these final 2 episodes say about them, not just in the events of these episodes, but as it impacts the story as a whole. And Erwin seems like a good place to start, because he really shows the sincerity of his character and his goals here. He has this devotion to getting Eren back, and he has so much belief in Eren's value to humanity that he can justify any number of casualties to achieve that goal. And he's not just spewing lip service to the troops, he shows he's willing to sacrifice himself if necessary. He's leading like this daring maneuver to lure Titans into Reiner's path, and he finds himself snapped up in the jaws of one of those very Titans. And while he's spurting blood from his wound and he's kind of being flung around like a puppy's chew toy, he's still rallying the troops and he's giving them the order to charge. And at this point, if anybody was still holding on to like any suspicions that ambition is a driving force for Erwin, well, you have to let it go in that moment. Because it's clear he has absolutely zero self-interest at this point. His goal is clear to be what he's always claimed it to be: saving humanity. And that comes before any government or any individual or even himself. And after seeing the conclusion of both episodes, I also realized it was kind of a clever bit of foreshadowing that Erwin uses that tactic of fighting fire with fire, or in this case, fighting Titan with Titan, because in the end, it's doing just that which leads to the eventual resolution of the battle. And even though the price was high, I would call it a victory. But Erwin does manage to survive, though he did lose an arm in the ordeal. And the commander shows he's not just a thinker and a leader, but he's still a tough-as-nails soldier, because even with an arm missing, he jumps back into the fight. He even strikes the blow that frees Eren from Reiner and Bertholdt. But I do wonder what's going to happen now for Erwin. Like, I think I heard him say the arm could be replaced, and if he does get a prosthetic, I hope it's like a really cool tactical prosthetic. I don't know if any of you folks have seen Shang-Chi or at least seen the trailer, but there's this character named Razor Fist who has a sword attached like to the stump of his amputated arm. And I'd like to see Erwin with something like that. Like one of those slicing blades, those Titan slicing blades just interlocked to a stump by some kind of a device so he can switch it out whenever it gets dull. That would totally kick butt. Now, Reiner doesn't really show me a whole lot of new dimensions in these episodes, but he's had a lot of story devoted to him in the prior episodes, so I think that's okay. But he does prove to be a pretty effective Titan flinger, and it makes me wonder if that's going to be his approach to solving problems in the future. Like instead of using finesse, he's just going to use blunt force and brute strength. Like, if any problems come along, is he just going to fling Titans at it? And Reiner only gives us his warrior side in these 2 episodes, and I'm kind of curious now if we'll ever get to see that soldier inside of Reiner again. But Bertholdt gives us a lot of insight into how he feels about being a warrior. He states in no uncertain terms that he hates himself for what he has to do. But at the same time, he absolutely seems to feel like he has no choice but to follow this awful path that's been assigned to him. And this attitude and this behavior by Bertholdt, it absolutely reminds me of how Annie behaved at the end of Season 1. And of course, this is accentuated by the knowledge that Bertholdt has a certain fondness for Annie. And of course, Armin steps in to exploit this fondness for Annie in order to manipulate Bertholdt. But before Armin does so, he sort of asks himself what he must sacrifice to resolve this situation. Because Armin always kind of had this refrain, and I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but he says that you have to be willing to give up everything to change anything, or something to that effect. So what must he let go? What has he given up about himself when he begins this manipulation? And make no mistake, manipulation is exactly what it is. We know he's not telling the truth. Annie isn't actually being tortured. She's still frozen in that Titan carbonite. But making that decision to lie in such a cold, cruel fashion, well, he's letting go of a significant part of his humanity. He's sacrificing his kindness. Armin is sacrificing his compassion and his empathy, and he's becoming as cold as I've accused Erwin and Levi of being in the past. He has to put aside what he thinks is right and how he feels others should be treated in order to achieve a goal. And it's a selfless goal and a goal that serves the greater good. But is this step going to push Armin further and further down like a cold, calculating, heartless path in the name of saving the world? Is he going to become like Ozymandias from Watchmen? Or is he going to be able to balance these actions with the inner warmth that makes Armin who he's been up until this point? Also, the more Armin does this sort of thing, like this cold, calculating, manipulative sort of thing, I think maybe the more inner turmoil he's going to have until he's sort of a reflection of Bertolt with this self-loathing. Or maybe his psyche gets entirely broken like Reiner. Just some things to think about when it comes to my man Armin. Amir's fickle allegiance continues right up until the end. And Krista kind of calls her out on her manipulation. Because there's this scene, Amir pulls like this slobber-covered Krista out of her mouth and they have this conversation. And in order to talk to Krista, or I guess I should get used to calling her Historia, that's how she wants to be known, but Amir pulls her human form out of the Titan's nape while she's still maintaining control of the Titan, and she's holding Krista in the Titan's hand. And this was something that seemed new to me. I don't think I'd seen anybody do this before. And I think it's great how it's introduced here when it's easy to understand what's going on, because knowing that Titan shifters can do this is going to help me to understand something that I'll see at the very end of the season. But Krista, or Historia rather, asks if Amir's being forced to do this. And it's revealed that no, in fact it's Amir who forced Reiner and Bertolt to come back for Krista. And Amir tries to sell Historia a false story about turning her over to the Titan shifters so that Amir won't be killed or won't be punished. But Historia knows this isn't true. And the viewer knows this isn't true. And then it's further illustrated when Amir's confronted by Mikasa. And that's a fight that Amir can't win. So if Amir was really just looking out for herself, she absolutely would have submitted to Mikasa's demands. But Amir did say something that caught my attention. She said she stole Titan power from Reiner and Bertolt's comrade. And I'm assuming she's referring to that Marcel character that she ate way back when she first encountered Reiner and Bertolt. But I didn't know she stole his Titan power. Like, I thought maybe just eating any human would have turned Amir into a shifter. But maybe she was just like a regular dumb Titan. And it's because she ate a Titan shifter that she became a Titan shifter. I'm not entirely sure I fully grasp what she meant when she said she stole the Titan power, but I hope that they do explore that further, maybe illuminate it more in the future. But Amir does seem to have like her final change of heart when she witnesses a new development that suggests, just maybe, humanity inside the walls isn't doomed after all. And she decides that Historia might be okay inside the walls after all. And Amir says like this nice final farewell to Historia, and she goes off with Reiner and Bertolt. We see the three of them in their human form atop what I think is Wall Maria. And I wonder why she went with Reiner and Bertolt when things really seem to be bad in her future in that direction. I honestly think she would have been better staying back as a prisoner of Erwin and company. But I get the idea that Amir feels responsible for a lot of bad things that happened. Though I would say she was like just a pawn in that whole cultist scheme. But, you know, she does say she enjoyed being a goddess. So I guess she feels like since she enjoyed the good life while she had it, that she's also got to be there to like face the music when the piper comes calling. Also, in her Titan form, I don't think she really had like a human level of understanding of what she was doing when she chomped Marcel, but I believe she feels responsible just the same. And I think it's this feeling of responsibility that she's going to offer herself up in some way, or maybe she's got another about face waiting. I'll just have to see. Hannes has an incredible redemption arc that comes to its conclusion in these episodes. With Eren weak and his hands bound, and Mikasa's injured from her battle with the Titans, the grinning Titan who chomped Eren's mom appears from the fog of battle. And as it moves in on Eren and Mikasa, Hannes arrives like a demented guardian angel just in time to save them. And he stares down this Titan. You know, this is the very same Titan that scared him back during the fall of Shiganshina. This is the one that he fled from, that probably left him with feelings of guilt and feelings of cowardice for the last 5 or so years. But he faces it, looks it in the Titan eye, and proclaims he's going to butcher it. Hannes says that he's going to get vengeance for Eren's mother. But something episode 12 is telling us is that vengeance is not enough. Vengeance is not the noble motivation that will lead to victory, and the Titan kills Hannes. And Hannes' death hit me hard. I'm going to say that his death hit me harder than any character death so far. And maybe as hard as any character death from any story ever has. Only time will tell on that subject. It also hits Eren hard. And episode 12 begins with the memory of Eren with his mother. And she tells him, this is what she says, try protecting Mikasa once in a while. And those words of mother's wisdom really hold the key to victory here. So not too long ago, I talked about how Eren and Mikasa hadn't really begun their character arcs yet. I even talked about personality disorders a little bit with those two. But in episode 12, things start changing. Eren bites his hand over and over again. He wants to transform into a Titan and fight this mom chomp Titan, but he can't transform. He's too weak from everything he's already been through, the battle with Reiner, all that. And because he can't transform, he gets really frustrated. Feelings of failure just kind of well up in him. He breaks down crying. And he cries about how he's just as ineffectual as he's ever been. And he's still just this helpless kid who can't seem to do anything or to accomplish anything. He calls himself useless. But Mikasa speaks with him. And they share like this quiet, tender moment. It really appears to me, the feeling that I'm getting is that Mikasa fully expects this to be the final moments of both their lives. And she thanks Eren. She thanks him for when he protected her. And she thanks him for how he comforted her with the scarf way back when they were younger. And in this moment, the dynamic shifts. And Eren promises to protect Mikasa. And his motivation for confronting the Mom Chomp Titan changes. It goes from rage and from revenge and from vengeance to protection and preservation. And this is the narrative key that unlocks victory. And with this change in motivation, Eren discovers a new power within himself. And he expresses it in the form of like this super punch. He has the super punch that hits the grinning Titan in the hand. And the punch itself isn't really the power. But now we find out that Eren is able to command like all the lesser Titans on the battlefield. And he sends them all to attack that grinning Titan. And when that happens, the Mom Chomp Titan is just overwhelmed. And it's literally torn limb from limb. Like you can see the Titan's limbs being held up in the arms. It is really gruesome. Like an awesome kind of gruesome, but it's gruesome. And then after the Mom Chomp Titan gets taken down and devoured and destroyed, Eren sends those Titans after Reiner. And by sending those Titans after Reiner, this allows the soldiers who remain alive, because we'll find out later about half of the veterans died in this battle, but all the ones that are still alive now, they're given this opportunity to withdraw, to retreat without any further casualties. So it really does save the day, or at least what's left of the day. And I do believe this controlling the other Titans is what it means to be coordinate, because they referred to Eren as maybe being the coordinate. And I think that's like the ability to coordinate the actions and movements of Titans. And I can totally see why Reiner's faction would need someone with this ability. Like an army of Titans, it really isn't much use if they don't have a leader or if they don't follow any instructions, because they can only accomplish so much as like this disordered force of chaos. We've seen more than once where they represent just as much danger to the Titan shifters at times as they do to the humans. And it's also interesting that we saw the Beast Titan be able to do this sort of thing too. And I'll wrap back around to that when I'm talking more about the Beast Titan. We do get to check in with Levi. Levi has been mostly quiet this season, but we get to check in with him at the end of episode 12. And thanks to discoveries from Connie's hometown, and courtesy of this info card that they give the viewer so that there's not any doubt, takes away any doubt if you had it, but we now know, as the viewer and the leadership knows, that the Titans are humans. And this seems to have an impact on Levi. Like the realization that all the Titans had been slicing through like there were just so much dead meat. Well, the fact that they're actually humans seems to impact him. And I feel like this will probably change his approach in the future, and I'm really curious to see what kind of effect this knowledge has on him. Levi didn't really show his hand here, but it did seem pretty clear that this knowledge had an impact on it. Like his eyes were considering that, and he said a little something out loud like, oh, so all those things I cut through like carrion, they were actually humans. And then the final image of episode 12, the final image of season 2, is one of the Beast Titan. And there's this human figure standing in the area of the Beast Titan's nape. And this show was so effective. By showing Ymir do this maneuver in which she emerges from the nape while still maintaining the Titan form, by showing us that earlier, well, because of that, I feel safe inferring that this man we see is, in fact, the Beast Titan. And I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed they didn't go all Teen Wolf with it, but we do get a pretty good look at the guy. Now, at first, I have to say, I thought it was Armin's mom wearing a fake beard. But the figure is shirtless, and it looks like it is intended to be a man. He's also really jacked. Like, I counted a 19-pack of abdominal muscles on the guy. I'm not kidding, just pause it and count. It's ridiculous. So this Titan hometown must have a CrossFit somewhere. But I do think this mystery guy must have some kind of connection to our established characters. That's just what makes a story interesting, right? And hair seems to be a pretty important signifier in this show. It seems to give important clues to like the Titan identity, so the blonde hair on this guy might be a clue. One idea I really like it's a fun idea to bounce around in my head, is that it's like Erwin's brother, or maybe Erwin's father or uncle or something. And then we have these two similar tactical minds, like these strategic geniuses going to war with one another. And I would really like it if that's how it played out. But aside from the hair color, there might be some other clues here. Like the Beast Titan, as I said before, seems to be a coordinate. And that makes me wonder if there's like a connection to Eren's bloodline. Like just maybe something about his family make both Eren and the Beast Titan coordinates. The problem is it falls apart when you look at the visual cues. Like this blonde, beardy Aquaman guy, he doesn't look anything like Eren, doesn't look like Grisha, doesn't even look like Eren's mom, so you could say maybe it's on his mother's side, but just no family resemblance there. So as intriguing as that possibility is, I don't think it's there. And I guess it's always possible that this could be like Reiner's father or Reiner's older brother with that blonde hair. We'll just have to see. You know, maybe season 3 will shed some light on this guy. And when it comes to season 2 as a whole, I really enjoyed it. And I know there are folks who feel season 2 is a weak season, but I like the compact nature, only having 12 episodes. To me, it seemed really information dense, which kept me going. It really kept me moving forward, and I had a blast. But I can see how somebody might be disappointed that Levi's out of action all season. I know that Levi is a lot of people's favorite character, so I could imagine if you just watched Attack on Titan for Levi, you probably wouldn't like season 2. But for me, I enjoyed exploring some of these side characters, or they were side characters before. I feel like they're central characters now. And I also found Ymir's story absolutely compelling. Not to mention the Reiner reveal was phenomenal, and my episode 6 reaction, well, it got a lot more views than my other Attack on Titan videos, so I appreciate that too. But by all accounts, season 3 is awesome, so I'm eager to get to it. So all I'm going to say is, I'm proud of you for watching anime, and I'll talk to you soon.